In a world where men make songs about ponies, comes the Brony Musician Directory Eurobeat Brony Interview.
Hey, this is the Free Wave. I just wanted to present to you, we have the Brony Musician Directory Interview with none other than Eurobeat Brony. Agreed to let us interview him, and we wanted to spotlight him, so to talk about the beginning of Brony music and his involvement in that, talk about Eurobeat music, talk about what he's doing now, and sort of where Brony music has come from and is going now, and get to know him better as a musician, because he's obviously, if not the first Brony musician, then one of the earliest of our scene, and definitely a very nice guy, very down to earth. So wanted to spotlight him, and it was a great interview. So we're going to talk all about that. Just a couple things to keep in mind. Unfortunately, some of the people on our team dialed into the Skype chat with their mics on, so we tried to take a bunch of that out. There is some background noise on some questions and answers. Most of that we've taken out as good as possible. One of the things I learned is that when you try to record a Skype phone call through Audacity, that it does not record the mic input, which was my voice asking the question. So I've had to recreate all my questions. So if that sounds weird, it does sound weird. My apologies with that. We obviously won't do that the next time we try to do one of these. But anyway, this is a special interview with him. I hope you listen and enjoy. This is for musicians, for anyone who likes Brony music in general, or anyone who's a fan of Eurobeat Brony. All right, enjoy.
I'm Odyssey, also known as a Eurobeat Brony. A couple other names I go by too, like Mortimer, DNA Team, T Stebbins, etc. I don't go by etc. though, that'd be confusing.
You forgot Ken Blast.
Yeah, that's another one. That's very true, that's very true. Haven't done a Ken Blast track in a while though. I don't know, besides more people know about my pony stuff than my Super Eurobeat stuff.
Well, I guess one of the first questions we want is how did you get started making music in general?
Oh, that's a good question. I was raised around music, so like I've sort of been doing it in some form or another, like basically out of the womb. You know, basically either singing on a track or hitting a drum or two or playing a key, you know, playing keys of some sort. Played in a, forgive the liberal use of the word here, but band in high school. We've since gotten a lot better and started hanging out. I know. I started sort of producing on my own when I was, 13? Just fun little ditties here and there, all unusually fast, almost frighteningly so. 170, 180 sort of things, and these were all, you know, remixes of like various Christmas carols or, you know, just random tunes that I thought of. Occasionally did an original, but it was all just sort of for fun, for, you know, for just no particular reason than, hey, I make a song, I make another song, that is fun, I make more songs, you know. Then started putting it up on MySpace for basically no reason. Then I found out about this weird electronic music stuff, you know, this weird crazy looking 4-foot dance game at the arcade that had these weird songs in languages I couldn't really understand. Figures that the machine was bootleg later on, so that was. I'll sum it up. I'll quicken it up real quick. Found that, discovered Eurobeat, decided that was totally what I needed to be doing. Started getting some opportunities in ways that I never expected. Started just having fun, mixing whatever. A couple stints on Super Eurobeat. Then I find this weird cartoon about Technicolor horses, do a remix, and then that kind of exploded as well. So, yeah, that's basically the gist. Raised around music, started doing my own, started just kind of doing things because I can. You know?
A lot of people do say that you are pretty much the first original Brony musician, even though a lot came out shortly after. So it's a matter, you know, if it gets into a question of who came in first, a lot of people do say that you are the first Brony musician, the first Brony track out, and that I guess would be Evil Enchantress being that track. Is that correct as far as you know?
You know, I've been trying to do some research on that. I'm not sure how
close to rhythm, or yeah, it was you, Jane was.
Well, actually, I think Renard had me beat out. I'm not sure when, but I believe there were sort of words and mentions of I think Rainbow Dash Likes Girls came out before Evil Enchantress. I'm not 100% sure though, because I remember seeing mentions of that before I did Evil Enchantress, whatever subtitle I gave to that. I'm not 100% sure. It's weird. I've been trying to see what where I fall in the picture, but I don't know. I don't feel like it was the first. It doesn't. Something about that doesn't click well with me. It's like I don't know. Just doesn't make sense to me. It feels like someone else came in the scene before I did. I don't know. Who knows? I could be wrong. I do know that I think myself, Chained, and NotACleverPony were sort of the first three to really sort of make anything official. Like, really be like, okay, we're going to start doing this on a fairly frequent basis.
And what we've been able to, I guess, establish is the Evil Enchantress, the Super Euro Mix, was posted by yourself on January 27th, 2011. Friends Forever, My Little Pony Remix was released by Chain Algorithm on February 11th, 2011. And Renard also came out with the Rainbow Dash Likes Girls, released that track on March 15th, 2011 on YouTube.
Okay, I know a few people waited to post their material to YouTube after it was released through other various sources. Still a little room for flexibility. I would check the very earliest of co-threads, or and I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but I would check those. Those are more, authoritative.
And how exactly did Evil Enchantress, your very first remix, come out? We've been told, you've said previously that it was a request on 4chan to I guess remix that track.
Actually, it was more to this extent. Someone was asking for Flutter Guy's voice extracted from Evil Enchantress, and I figured, okay, I have the equipment to do that. I have the software, we have the technology, and I gave it a shot. Failed miserably, and I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm sorry, I tried, I failed. I'll tell you what, I could do a quick little remix for you though, just for fun. And I doubt the guy cared, because it's not the vocals or anything, but tossed it together, and people were like, hey, this is fun. Is this like DDR music? What's going on here? I thought things were just going to be quiet after that. But then Winter Wrap Up was a big deal, and some guy actually had like a Superman picture going, is he going to remix Winter Wrap Up? Is he going to do it? And people were like, oh, this needs to be a thing. This needs to be an album. This needs to happen. I'm like, wait, that was just for fun. I don't know how seriously I'm taking the show to begin with, much less remixing. And then, at the time, Bandpuffs was starting to upload all that stuff to YouTube for me before I realized this is something I could actually be proud of. And yeah, it basically started there though. Like, back in the Co days, back when very few people really knew that this was a show to be liked. Definitely different days, those.
Did you make these tracks quickly after they premiered?
I tried to for a little while. I mean, this was all happening at university. I believe it was my second semester on campus. But yeah, it was my second semester on campus, and I wasn't used to a university workload. So, man, everyone has just been completely understanding about, when school's in session, when I got to focus on certain things, but like, I did the best I could to be like, okay, there's a new song, I'm gonna work on it. I believe the fastest I worked on one was, I think it was Fluttershy's Lullaby. Like the day that I worked on it, I'm not sure if it was the day of the episode, but the day that I started working on it was the day I finished it. But yeah, I tried to work pretty fast. Nowadays, a little difficult for me to do that, but I gave it a shot.
Unlike some of the other musicians who came out around that time, as part of the Brony musicians to actually do instrumental covers, was that a specific thought behind that, to go that route?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really go in with that specific of a goal per se. Like originally I would just want to knock a couple of tracks, out and then call it a day, but I remix what I like, just to be honest and relatively unprofessional in hindsight. I've remixed other series too. I've remixed Toho. I would remix Top Gear, but technically they're their intro song is already a remix, so I tend to try not to be too redundant. And, you know, at the time I liked the show. So, I don't know, I guess it just made sense. That, and I found that it was a nice counter to, actually a rather strong epidemic of what's going on nowadays. Instead of, forgive me for using the word, instead of ponifying Eurobeat, I was Eurobeatifying MLP. Like, I just make Eurobeat out of the stuff I like. Originals, ponies, cars, Tuhus, however you pronounce them, Toes. I know other. You know, I just didn't really think about, you know, how this would have an impact or anything like that. I was just having fun.
And I believe you were the first Brony musician to actually put out an album to really take advantage of using Bandcamp to release an actual CD per se, an album of music tracks. Is that correct?
Let me dig it up. I have the access right here. Yeah, that's correct. Because I remember in like February, I started taking. Was it February that I started taking control of it on my own like accounts? At any rate, like, yeah, it's about when I started putting it up on Bandcamp, and I keep it free for a couple of reasons. One, the internet kind of expects free. It's not my property to begin with, so I shouldn't be charging for it anyway. It's someone else's work that I'm just basically putting an Untitled to. You know? I mean, I like to think that I put more work into it for that, but, you know, on the most cynical level, it's sort of like, you know what? It's better to have people enjoying the song on a widespread level. You know, a song that they already know and enjoy and can listen to elsewhere. You know, better to have that than to start making, you know, some big bucks because I decided to arbitrarily slap a price on it. That, and I can't legally require people to pay for things I don't own. So, part of it's because, you know, I want people to hear a bunch of it, and the other part is to cover my rump. You know, don't want to get sued. Daniel Ingram and Will Anderson, great guys. Support them first and foremost, you know. And if you guys feel like tossing some money my way, it helps. Go for it. My originals, those cost. Like, I gotta eat, you know. But Ponybeat, it costs a little bit to keep the download credits rolling. If I'm not earning enough to keep those updated, then it costs a little bit out of pocket, but totally worth it. You know, if that's what it takes to keep stuff out there, then I'm gonna do it. Yeah. Well, the key is these songs are available for free elsewhere. I used to get a little, you know, frustrated with, you know, seeing torrents of it or, you know, direct downloads of it. But at this point, they're just saving me time. You know, if you can get it free elsewhere and you're already going to get it free, I recommend that you use those. Bandcamp is more for if you want it in WAV, or if you want it in FLAC, or OGG Vorbis, or whatever bizarre audio file format that I don't understand. Bandcamp is also for if you want to, you know, toss me some coin. You know, if you want to keep seeing more of this at a fairly decent level, if you want me to be able to afford to have the equipment to go out and fly to various places and perform it, which is happening, really stoked on that. If you want that sort of thing to happen, then yeah, feel free to toss me some coin. I much appreciate it. But Ponybeat, free. Have it free however you're going to get it.
Are there other musicians out there that you basically post whips for, that you hang out with, that are sort of your support team, that you work with or consider comrades?
That is a good question. Early on, I was sort of lone wolfing it. There weren't a lot of specific names to hang out with. But, you know, as time went on, I started meeting other musicians, started hanging out with Alex S., with NotACleverPony, with Pinkie Pie Swear. You know, I just started really meeting people that ran the gamut. Bumped into Macon. Gosh, that dude. Macon's a cool dude. You ever see him in person, give him a hug, a high five, $5. Just, seriously, one of the chillest dudes I've ever met in person.
Now, when My Little Remix came around in like June 2011, and you take a look at all the different musicians who joined there that represent sort of the core initial wave of the scene, were you part of that going in? Were you in there? Did you join the site earlier? Were you a part of that?
No, actually, I came along a good bit later. NotACleverPony at the time invited me later on, sort of like, hey, we'd love to have you. There's some people that, would love to pick your brain on, like VSTs, various plugins, etc. And, after a while I did. Sadly, I haven't been too active there, but, a lot of the people, when this was starting out, that really was a good bastion for them to really, explode and sort of seize their identity while it was still fresh for grabbing, MLR was, I gotta be honest, I haven't spent too much time there. That's not to say that it's a bad resource by any means, but I just didn't spend too much time there. I honestly stayed pretty solitary, pretty focused on my music, just the remixes and whatnot.
What are your Eurobeat influences? What musicians do you look at and help influence what type of music you put out?
How long do you have? This is a good question. The only problem is, no matter how many of my lists, they're very hard to find. Unless you go onto, like, YouTube and you know exactly what to look for. Some of the bigger ones, I'll list some of the big ones insofar as those are going to be the ones that you're going to be able to see and find on YouTube and be like, oh, that's the one that does this song, sort of that would be first introduction to Eurobeat sort of thing. Let me get some of the big names out of the way. There's ABC has Dave Rogers, and Domino, well, if we're going back in time, they've recently split into two labels, but, ABC and some of the earlier stuff has, invited to another call. Let's see, ABC, Neo, and J-Storm, Powerful T. That's all ABC. Delta also split into Delta and Squash. There's such a big list. Nico, Neo, Franz Tornado, Dave Simon, Dave Rogers, DJ Command. It's almost, it's such a huge list. I can't even remember it off the top of my head. Super Eurobeat series, just get into it. Look at it, find it, have fun, listen to it. There's something for everyone, and if I started just writing on different names, that's not going to help much, because there's a few that are very similar, and a few that did, like, non-Eurobeat projects. It's like, just Super Eurobeat series, YouTube, even some of it on iTunes. If it were easier to access, I'd be able to give you guys a much easier, way of finding their work and supporting the artists and all that sort of stuff, but it's a very complicated picture. Everyone on Eurobeat, every independent producer, Disco Warp Records, Akiba Kobo, or I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but gosh, there's just a lot of names.
What other music do you like besides Eurobeat music?
Before I was big on Eurobeat, I was big on Oingo Boingo. For years, I had their material that the band forgot existed.
That's a great one.
Oh yeah. I was big on, I tried following a little bit of Elfman's post-Boingo career for a while, but I don't know, orchestral always kind of left me depressed. For some reason. Let's see. I don't know, I just like a lot of stuff. I was raised on a lot of classic rock, Foreigner, Kansas, Boston, Journey. Also raised on a lot of Kraftwerk as a kid. Really big on, like, certain kinds of soul music. That was always fun. Let's see, what else? Gosh, I don't want to give you the stereotypical answer of everything but rap and country, because even there's some rap songs. There's some rap music that I really love, and there's some country that's actually okay. Like, it's not so much about styles or artists so much as if I like music, and it's like, that's hard to gauge on a genre by genre basis. There's some Eurobeat songs I just detest. But yeah, I don't know, I try to listen to a big old smattering of different material. People might be surprised that I don't necessarily despise all dubstep with a fiery passion. I actually found out recently that Porter Robinson is a very big Eurobeat fan. Yeah. The more you know.
Now, I know Fluttershy Elsa took show vocals to your instrumentals. Is this something they brought up to you, that they were doing it, that they worked with you, or how did that work out?
Not all of them did. Not all of them knew to reach me. I mean, some of this happened during the Band Puffs era.
Okay.
A lot of it happened then. Honestly, I was just happy that people were working with the songs in the first place. Like, if people need the original vocals to enjoy the song, that's totally fine. The only things that I ask people, the only reason, excuse me, the words are in my head, getting them out. I'm usually fine with whatever people want to do with the songs, as long as the material is not like defamatory, derogatory, overtly sexual, or excessively violent sort of thing, or represents something that I'm violently against. I mean, people are going to use this sort of thing anyway. It's just going to happen. I think Boxy recently hit me up if she wanted to use one of the tunes in like a makeup thing. So I'm not sure how, it's going to happen anyways. A few people do try to be like, hey, I'm going to use it. Is this all right? But, there's not really much that I can do with when people have the MP3. They can toss it into anything. I can't really stop their hand and say, no, do that.
And, one of the things I just want to comment on here, I mean, it's just amazing to be able to interview you and be able to talk to you because, sometimes it's not always that easy to communicate with, a lot of the well-known Brony musicians out there. What's your, I guess, experience with that?
Yeah, I try to be fairly easy to access. It's my impression that no one in the whole MLP remix scene should be hard to reach. It's like we're just dudes or ladies in our various, bedrooms making tunes, probably out of very cheap speakers, or very expensive speakers. I mean, some people are making, getting careers out of this. Like Archie got signed, Alex S was in progress, I believe. I'm not sure details, but I know Monster Cat hit him up. So some people are taking this thing pretty far, but we're still just random dudes and ladies making music just for fun. Like, if I lost track of, some of the very people that, gave us this attention, this sort of fame to begin with, they would be sort of missing the forest for the trees. I mean, I try not to be. I mean, I don't have all the time in the world, but I'm not going to be that douchebag who's like, "Oh, plebeians, you're not insufficiently important to discuss things with me. Go do peasant things somewhere else." Like, no, that's not cool. Like, I can't respond to everything, but yeah, I love chatting. I love talking with people. Not necessarily about the same things. I know a few people tried to hit me up for writing songs for their OC or their fanfic. Which, they can do that if they want. I have better things to do with my time than support that sort of thing.
Now, you performed at the recent summer 2012 BronyCon in New York.
Yes and no. To leave out some of the nitty gritty that I'm not sure if I'm able to discuss or not. Basically, Toom and Alex were very gracious to allow me to work with them on their various sets. When Toom figured out that I was attending, he asked if I would join him on, his remix of my song. And, I figured, well, why not? A fairly sizable crowd. It'd be nice to, get up, share a little bit of the glory and, hey, sing on what is essentially my song. And then Alex was very gracious about, doing Life as We Know It and actually having that happen live. Gosh, that one was also a lot of fun. I had thought about doing a performance there, but at the time the details were a little bit shakier, so I ended up backing out. There were a lot of acts that that needed time. I just had a freakishly fun time just doing a set for 4,000 people in person, like 3,000 more on the live stream. I'm looking forward to some of the cons that I'm doing later in the year.
What other cons are you doing this summer?
Yes. Let's see. First one, Everfree Northwest. I cannot wait. I will be performing. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to be playing just half an hour. I'm still figuring out the details. I have a real basic. I'll get into that a whole bit later. But also Equestria LA. They're actually the first ones to hit me up. They're like, hey, a California local. How would you, we should, how would you like to do a performance down here and just hang out? And actually, Rena hit me up for that. She's just been the sweetest person, and really looking forward to that. And a third one, I'm not sure if I can bring it up, but you will hear about that one soon enough. Of course, all this boils down to how I'm going to be able to get a live Eurobeat set going, and all your guesses are as good as mine. Right now I have a real basic setup, mash play, plays a track finishes, hit a couple buttons, start the next one. I'm doing some experimenting with better programs, better situations. I just also got a thing called a MIDI fighter, which is like a 16-button drum pad made out of arcade buttons.
Oh, okay. Those things are pretty cool. Too,
oh, gosh, yes, they are. And that I'm also learning Ableton Live, which will allow me to, have a more interesting, live performance. I cannot wait to see what I can pull with that. It'll be interesting to see how that all works out. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to having a set of my own, just really being able to see how this works in a live situation. I'm really, really stoked with that. People have been really supportive, like, holy crap, he's going to be doing it live. I'm like, oh, please let my set not suck.
Now, what's your DAW? What's your VSTs? What do you use?
Let's make a long story short. I'm using Logic Pro 9 on a MacBook Pro. A lot of people will tell you that that's what you need to make music. Slap them in the face. Any DAW on any laptop, desktop, phone should do the trick. I use a combination of some samples from my old Korg unit that I used when I used to play keys. A couple of samples that I purchased off of a producer that I worked with back in the Super Eurobeat days. Some of the presets built into Logic itself. Learning Massive, because I make a couple of different styles. I've dabbled in the occasional wubby type dub. Yeah, the dubs are quite popular. It's let's see, plugins and whatnot. I really use a lot of what's built into Logic. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm thoroughly mistaken. Also, the Vengeance Essentials Club pack, just the first one is doing fine by me.
Sweet.
Yeah, I honestly don't use a lot of packs or a lot of instruments, because, the stuff that I have is usually more than enough. I have a couple of buddies that have hooked me up with, a sample or two for different things, and those have worked great. I tend to get a lot of mileage from, one or two samples. Or at least I try to. I'm very frugal in that sense. Then again, I try to be pretty frugal in a lot of senses.
Yeah, if that's all you need, then there's no reason to get anything else, right? Don't fix what you're broken.
Yes and no. There are some sounds that I just can't get with what I have. And obviously I will try to expand only as much as necessary. In that case, Massive I only use, because ES2, the plugin in Logic, doesn't necessarily have the best, deep growls or bassy things like that. But, it also serves different purposes for some of the synth sites. Like the synth brass is mostly, this ES2 synth built into Logic. It really depends on what I'm trying to do. And sometimes, God forbid, I might even have to play a live instrument. God forbid.
Every electronic musician's worst nightmare.
The studio. Yeah, I actually don't use too many different sounds. Wait, what?
Now, one of the comments about Eurobeat music is how it sort of all sounds the same. I guess, what's your thoughts on that?
Up until very recently, freakishly so. In fact, in the 80s, 90s, and even the early thousands, it was said that producers could use only just a couple of a Roland JD8, I think it's 8000 brass, and a couple of samples, and they could get the job done. I mean, it's a lot more complicated than that for sure, but nowadays we're seeing a good bit more variety, and I've tried to include a little bit of variety, and especially in Super Ponybeat Volume 2, there were a lot of complaints that, Super Ponybeat all sounds the same, it all sounds the same. I'm like, shut up, stop being right. I tried to do a little bit of variety, but Eurobeat, when, reduced to its core, is really quite formulaic and easy to break down into its elements. I've tried to shake things up a little bit, not too great with it. I'm still sort of a traditionalist. But, Eurobeat is very, intro, riff, verse 1, pre-chorus, chorus, riff, verse 2. Synth, brass, bass, drum kit, a little bit of additional percussion, maybe a distorted guitar. I'm trying to break out of that. Was it a buddy of mine proposed making a Eurobeat song entirely out of screams and slamming things on the ground? I can't wait to hear that one. A lot of the people that have been doing it mainstream haven't had a lot of room to experiment, so it's kind of down to, the few people that are doing it on an independent level. So that's a cool thing. That's going to be the cool thing about. Well, actually, sorry, I'm rambling on this, but I'll keep it real short. My Life as a Pixel Volume 2 is going to contain fairly traditional Eurobeat. It's going to contain some other stuff too, but I'm thinking for if I do a third installment, I'm not sure if it's going to be Volume 3 or just a different title. I hope to break some different ground with what Eurobeat can and can't do, what it's associated with. I know I got a lot of flack from some Eurobeat purists for suggesting that it ever get close to dubstep. Oh, heaven. Their eyes grew red and they cried blood and forth in their ears. Which is sad because, dubstep fans seem to be more than happy with Eurobeat. Just it's a pity that it can't be the other way around. It's, electronic music should be able to have one-night stands like that,
I know to a certain degree that you exposed a lot of people to Eurobeat music. Do you have a lot of people come up to you and confess that I didn't even know about Eurobeat before you?
A lot of people have been exposed to Eurobeat without knowing it. If you're familiar with LOL Internet, which is, just Ronald McDonald in the car, if you have ever met Speedy Cat, hell, if you have ever been Rickrolled, you have experienced Eurobeat. In the earliest days, Italo Disco was, called Eurobeat, like in the later 80s, early 90s. But sort of back with the, people all, listening to my stuff without necessarily knowing what it is, that's a good thing because, one of my big things has always been write good music first, worry about the genre later. I try to make my own stuff good on its own right before I start adding, crazy synth brass and, various elements of Eurobeat, because it could very well be a better country song. It could very well be a better metal song. It could very well be this. If the music is good, then the genre won't matter. That's what I think, anyway.
Right.
It's good that, people are like, hey, the song is good. It's like DDR music, but with stuff. I just didn't expect that MLP would be, the conduit for that, the way that people found out about it. This was all just for fun. I never expected that it would explode like it did. Actually, funny thing about metalheads, though, I'll be real quick. Well, not necessarily about metalheads. A buddy of mine did a metal Eurobeat hybrid called Most Extreme Ultimate Thunder, and it is amazing, for lack of a better word. It is every bit as glorious as it could be. It doesn't really screw either side of either genre up. I heavily recommend it. I am on there twice, so I might be biased, but that doesn't mean I'm wrong. I find actually metalheads have a great, find themselves surprised to see what relations they have with Eurobeat, because I think one of the singers for Rhapsody did a couple of Eurobeat tracks. One of the actually quite a few people from the power metal scene seem to interchange with Eurobeat. A lot of them, a couple of them are Italian, and Eurobeat is produced in Italy, so in a way, it makes sense. If only we could get the singer from Camelot to start doing some Eurobeat track.
Now, Remix Wars 5 is coming out. Obviously, Remix Wars is a big, important event in the Brony music scene in 2011, getting a lot of the musicians to remix each other. Were you involved with that back in the day when that first started?
I was supposed to be a judge on one of the first ones. They never got back to me on how I was supposed to do it, or tracks I was supposed to judge. That's how I met Alex S, though. That was when Luna was new. That was the first or the second Remix War. They're doing the fifth one now, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll be able to participate in that one, but that's going to be cool. That's always a great way for people to meet other musicians or hear new stuff in a different style. That's when I heard his dubstep take on Luna, and then I remembered, he's the guy that did Stephen Magnet's What a World. I didn't do too much with the Remix Wars. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry, that's not true at all. Wow, I completely blanked. Lower the Moon by NotACleverPony, and then Eurobeat Telegram. I completely blanked on that. Gosh, forgive me. Yeah, I did that one. Not really much happened of it though. I mean, like, it was great working with NotACleverPony. You know, did a great job with my track. I did what I thought, would do justice to the original track with Lower the Moon. It was just a lot of fun. And gosh, it was great meeting NotACleverPony at the time as well.
Obviously, NotACleverPony is she's one of our most important artists, especially early on. How she took kind of the music as far as it could go, and you could take this influence and put out this mature, amazing instrumentals that were original.
She really is. It's been sad to see, I haven't really been able to hear much from her as of late. Even since, sort of hopping out of the fandom for a little bit and then even hopping back in for a brief period of time. She still does music, but I haven't heard much update. In fact, I haven't really bumped into her much lately. I got nothing but respect for her. Like, well, that's not necessarily true. Like, we're just great hanging out with her. She's a great musician in her own right. Just say nothing but respect. It almost sounds rude, but like, I really do just respect everything she's done from the start to now. Yeah, she had a great sense of artistry, just the material at hand. Like, I would not have been able, like, she did in an entire album what I could barely do with one song. Like, she did an entire album on Luna with just such class and sophistication and just, gosh, it was just good. And like, I tried to be, hey, look, it's sentimental, it's got pianos in it, and the riff isn't going all super fast. Just really been blessed to meet a lot of really talented and fantastic musicians in the field, and NotACleverPony deserves all the praise that she gets.
Now, you have 2 albums out. Are you working on a third album?
I barely finished with the second one. I'm not sure to do a third one. I might just do more singles before I do another collection. Gosh, I'm not entirely sure what to do with the singles. I was actually very tempted to make the second sort of collection nothing but the singles, but then I realized that's a very cheap and bad shot. Yeah, I've still got to figure that out because I'm just able to work things out with just over the horizon. I haven't had too much time to plan too far ahead.
Probably your biggest track would have to be Luna, because I mean, not only is it the one it's not instrumental, but it's a full-on vocal, but it's also just an incredibly well-known track. Can you tell us some more about how that came about? How did you put Luna together?
Yeah, it's a fascinating story. For one, actually, the idea of having death metal vocals in a pony song came around before the idea of Luna, because at the time, that idea came around when I remixed the song Cupcakes, because at the time, there was a very popular fiction of the same name, and for a very brief period, although I hadn't read the whole thing, from start to finish, I had been exposed to enough of it to get the gist of it. Gosh, I was there when that was new. That's a weird thought. I'm old. The idea was, the song would proceed as normal, and then all of a sudden it would cut out and just these freakish hell voices just start going crazy. In fact, I'm like, you know what? I'll save that for later. And then, a lot of people were really fond of Luna as a character. Was not a really explored concept at the time. And I was thinking of doing an original tune to be like, hey, I do more than just remix someone else's material. And then, of course, the idea of including one with lyrics came to mind, but thought scared the bejesus out of me because my crappy vocals all over, 4chan at the time was just a very daunting concept. So, people say, oh, it's auto-tune, auto-tune. It is. I didn't want to risk, giving them a subpar song, but the idea, honestly, it's just the way that I usually do a remix with character inspiration. Like, some of the Toho material, I'll take the character and I'll be like, okay, what do we know about this character? It has this. Okay, it could be these. Like, Luna was an interesting character to write as. The idea of a third-party character going through something similar and sort of looking to her sympathy was an interesting concept. I didn't want to take it too seriously because, ultimately it is still a remix of a show with cartoon horses. But, it was interesting to sort of explore something that wasn't mind-blowingly happy the entire time. So I was like, you know what? I'll make this an example of what I can do a little bit more than, what I can do with Daniel Ingram's help. I mean, nothing against the guy. He's totally, he's a fantastic and talented producer and composer in his own right. But he was like, you know what? I don't just do remixes. So I'm going to see if I can give this a shot. And I was scared to death. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to include vocals. It's on YouTube. It's there. And wait for the fallout. People loved it. Despite all odds. Like, what? Yeah. My vocals are actually on that. Why did I do that? I should take it down. I just thought, I'll never release a song with vocals again. They'll come and they will scoop my brains out like Cadbury egg.
I remember finding that track when it first came out. Who was this Eurobeat Brony guy? Who is this Odyssey guy? Wait, do they share a same channel? Oh, this is one person, and just grew from there.
A lot of people, a lot of people have come up and said, Luna was my introduction to the Brony music community. I'm like, Luna was just interesting to do because I tried to make sure that no one really expected it. I tossed around the idea a little bit, but no one, I didn't say, oh, I'm going to do an original about Luna. It was like, no. I might do I might want to toss in a track that, isn't, necessarily from the show. And people are like, oh, hey, that's cool. That's fine. And then, I don't know, it just, another case of where it exploded in a way that I didn't expect. It's like, really? You guys like this? But that's me singing on it. How does that work? As you can tell, I'm not exceptionally fond of my voice. I think there's only one song in which I haven't used at least some auto-tune. I'm going to be honest, I'm not the most accurate singer. And I would rather give people an accurate tune than one that, goes flat every so often. One that I didn't auto-tune was Flim Flam Brothers, I believe. One was more speaky-talky, and, if there was auto-tune going on during that, and it would be like a really bad Cher remix of the Flim Flam Brothers.
What Daniel Ingram originals do you find are your favorite original pieces?
From the original, it's a good question. One that I really liked. I mean, the fact that I'm taking a little while to go through it doesn't mean that I didn't like it. Can't really say, although At the Gala was pretty good. I really liked that one. I don't know, I have different relationships with them based on how well they remixed. Like the intro theme wasn't necessarily a bad song at all, but it was hell to remix. Was it The Cutie Crusaders? Kind of an intentionally bad song, freakishly hard to remix. So it's like it's yeah, how do I make this work? Like, how am I supposed to interpret what this note was supposed to be? But let's see, songs that I really liked. Gosh, no, it all keeps boiling back to how I enjoyed remixing it. Darn it! I did like Fluttershy's Lullaby. It was short, but it worked. It was Then again, I like a lot of things Fluttershy does. Adorable. She is one of my favorites. I would put her towards the top of the list. I did like the Pinky's Smile song from season 2. That was season 2, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That one was pretty well done because it touched on more styles than it had originally done. It actually sounded like something barring some of the lyrics, it was like you could listen to this on the radio. This would be great. I didn't like it as much, but I had a lot of respect for This Day Aria. Wow. This Day Aria was definitely a good step. It was really just very well done, very well executed. Definitely took a lot of cues from Disney in all the right ways. A lot of people took that song more seriously than I expected, though. People were saying like they were crying at the song because I just didn't get that kind of response. Yeah, that one was definitely a very popular remix tune. So are the leaked songs from season 3. I'm actually intentionally not touching those for a while. People are gonna be tired of it already. There's gonna be a lot of great remixes that will get played very often, and it'll allow me to, pull some ideas from that too. As well, there's just enough going on to where I need to put off Ponybeat Volume 3 before I start really tackling it. I actually tend to do better with starting it when the school year starts, so. Yeah. But there's already a lot of remixes of those. I'm really impressed.
Now, you were doing a lot of, obviously, non-pony tracks before you came in. Do you juggle pony tracks and your non-pony music at this point?
Ponybeat's really been my bread and butter for the last couple of years at this point. I do work on other material, like I recently sent in a couple of things for various clients, and those will become pretty soon. Actually, I did work with a label in Japan for a ride at the Joy Police locations from Sega. Their ride Half-Pipe actually has a tune that I did the lyrics for. So stuff like that. There's a balance of them, but ultimately, Ponybeat's the work that most people care about, so that's sort of the focus. Lately I've been trying to be like, oh, by the way, I do other things too. Like, even the Spectrum remix, like, I've tried to do a good bit with that and be like, hey, look, if you liked Ponybeat, you'll love this. Look, it's this popular song that, a lot of people are really liking. Come take a look. And I don't think it's resonating as much because it, of course, is. That's one of the few things I will complain about as a musician that's worked with Pony. It's like, I do other things. It's okay like those if it doesn't contain horses.
Now, do you find that you don't have the support to make tracks that aren't about MLP?
It'd be unfair for me to just say yes, because there's a few of them that are like, oh, I came from Pony and I'm listening to this and totally stoked on it. Please, more of this. But just the numbers are a little bit fewer and further between. It'll take time. If the song is good enough, it will pull them away from. It'll work on its own merit. I'm not saying people need to listen to my stuff if they have a chance. Boo 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 boo. I mean, there's a little bit of that. I'm a musician, not a newly like, if the song is good, it'll get people listening. I just gotta keep working. I'm fine with it.
Now, are there any Brony musicians, ones that you in particular would like to recommend now?
Let me think. Gosh, I had the pleasure of hanging out with Exploding Heart Technique at BronyCon. Such a talented musician. Definitely give EHT a listen for sure. We've already covered Macon. I'll say it again. Listen to his stuff. That dude is freakishly talented and one of the chillest individuals you will ever meet. Let's see, who else? STORMWOLF, another Eurobeat artist, actually. Doing pretty well. Sort of an interesting take on the genre with some of his own takes on it. That's cool. Let's see, who else? Gosh, the list is just huge. There's a lot of musicians that need a lot of credit right now. Unfortunately, my brain is failing me today. And I mean, the recommendations that I would give are based on my own taste. Everyone's going to like something different. I could always rehype NotACleverPony because, like, although she was very big in the beginning, like, some people might have started to fade away from that. Don't forget your roots, folks. Like, there's good music there to be found in the archives. The new stuff is great and fantastic. And, like, I'm buddies with Alex S. and Omni and all of them, and that's great, but don't forget your roots. Don't forget some of the early stuff that's still poking around. So it's like, when there was fewer on the scene, there was a lot of focus on making a good release. I'm not saying that, with more musicians, there's that it's all going to be just garbage, but, back then, you stood out a lot more because there was only 3 or 4 of you, and, you were sort of in direct competition, even though they might have very well been your buddies. And I don't know, there was always a little bit of that, but back then, gosh, there was a lot of very talented people doing music back then, and there's still some now, just harder to find them.
Now, how do you feel about how Brony music is doing currently? Is there a direction that you wish it was going? Is there anything that you see that worries you? Where do you see that the scene is going, and is that in a positive direction? Is there something you would change?
Well, honestly, I'm not sure what the course is. People are going to remix anything, that's totally fine. Mm-hmm. If they're going to do remixes from the show, that's great. I guess it depends on their intention. Mm-hmm. There's some people that just want to remix, My Little Pony because they like it. Great, have fun with that. Some people are interested in getting some of the fame, to which I ask, how will remixing the show differentiate you from the people who are doing the same thing? There's nothing wrong with, another musician wanting to do pony dubstep or electro house or, orchestral. But if they're doing so for the intention of fame, they are doing so blindly. I guess I'm not entirely focused on, the scene as a whole. Like, as long as there's good music being made first and foremost, the rest won't matter. If they're doing a remix, then if they're doing it right, if they're focusing and getting a lot of time on the details right, then we should be fine. As for sort of the established musicians, I would encourage fans to look outside of MLP. I mean, not to say that you can't like the show by any means, or that you should stop listening to pony music, but a lot of these folks are doing, original works. Alex S. has songs that are completely unrelated, and they're great, and they're very recent, and they're not being listened to. I've got music that I've done that is completely pony unrelated that I put a lot of work into, and it has actually won the Spectrum Remix community vote for the most part, and, it's largely less regarded. I mean, there's nothing wrong with liking MLP, but if people are truly surprised that their favorite artist does something outside of their favorite show, then it is worth evaluating how much of a fan they are of that artist. I mean, not saying that, they're not a true fan, but, it's respectful to that musician to understand that they may not be wholly and entirely interested in using Pony 100% of the time. The rest is just kind of, just keep listening, have fun, support your artists if possible. Don't take it too seriously. We're here to have fun. We're here to enjoy ourselves.
You just recently won the Spectrum Remix contest on Beatport. Tell us about that.
What happens is I've essentially won a community vote. That means that I get like $50 of Beatport credits. That's great. But you know what? I also get bragging. It's how many people can say that they did a Eurobeat song that won the community vote for a chart-topping dance hit. I'm looking at Savant and Freddie Mercury and some of the people that are competing. These guys are huge. These guys are absolutely banging, and I'm on top of these guys. It just doesn't make much sense to me. I mean, I'm not complaining. I'm not gonna give it away. But it's like, it's cool just to see that. And if, at this point, what they're waiting for is for Zed to listen to every single remix to pick a favorite. And I'm not necessarily excluded from that list because of the whole 50 thing, but it just boils down to that. And the winner of that is when things get fun. But you know what? It's not to say that I'm ungrateful for what I've got. Totally just super blessed and stoked that I even placed, much less won the community vote. Like, thank everyone who voted. It means so much to me, and I still have to find a way to adequately thank everyone who did that. Like, that's super important to me. I have not forgotten. Of course, I still have to figure out how to thank the various subscriber milestones and the people that have, things of that sort. But, like, this is still very big. I gotta thank everybody that's helped out with that, because, like, that's no small feat. And I'm thankful for those who have helped out.
Anyway, I just want to thank you so much for joining us. This has been a wonderful evening. It's been great. I know we talked for a good full hour here, but this was a wonderful treat to be able to interview you, and we had a wonderful time.
Thank you so much for having me on, and it was great hanging out.
Obviously, please, if the funny thing about the Brony music scene is just how quickly it's moving. So obviously, check out Eurobeat Brony and his first 2 albums on Bandcamp, and he's had plenty other tracks that are a little more recent as well. Definitely check out his channel. Obviously, he's one of our roots of our community. So I hope you enjoyed the interview. We're going to try to have more in the future. So if you like this, subscribe. Any interviews that do come out, if they're not on my channel directly, some of my other staff might actually host them the next time and actually have to edit them themselves, since it was took a little bit of time. But I'll make sure to link those so that when those do come out, you can check them out, give them a listen. And we will also have an MP3 download of this, just so if you want to listen to this while you're out and about versus just sitting in front of a YouTube screen. Thanks again for joining. I hope you enjoyed this, and hopefully you'll see more soon. And check out the Brony Musician directory. Always good spotlights on new and old Brony musicians. We try to get everyone on there, and I hope you do check that out. All right, thank you much.